First of all, congratulations on your indoor NCAA championship. That was a big shocker to me, man. Well, let me just, yeah, how'd that come about? Just jump right into it.
Man, first of all, K Young, I appreciate it. It's just a lot of hard work, you know. The students, man, they just believing in the vision, want to be the best in the
Yeah,
NCAA, and how we got there wasn't an easy road, but just a lot of focus, determination, and a lot of heart. Yeah,
yeah, man. So I'm just gonna jump in there real quick. A lot of people don't know you from Detroit originally, right?
correct, correct.
Okay. How old were you when you moved to LA? Well, what grade were you in?
I moved to LA. I was in it's funny because I was in second semester, eighth grade, according to California, and I had one semester, the spring semester in middle school, and then I went to high school the next year. That was the first year high school started in ninth grade.
Wow, so that was a crazy transition. You literally
Yeah, it
basically
was a
went
great
from Detroit to
transition.
high school to LA.
Basically, straight to high school. One semester of middle school, and then got involved with some sports just on the middle school and things like that. But went straight to high school. Yeah, so
That's a trip. Question: you were at Taft, right? Was Ice Cube at Taft at that time?
yep,
He
yep. So
was,
I
huh?
was at Taft. Ice Cube was there. O'Shea Jackson, good dude. I remember them, and they had a rap crew called, I think it was Stereo Crew. And
Uh-huh.
so, yeah, I remember him. We weren't close friends or anything like that, but,
You didn't
you
pass
know,
him.
always cool. Yeah, always cool. Always real cool. But yeah, he did go to Taft.
I got it. Okay, so check this out. The two of us, we both had this love of basketball, right? I remember
All
we was
right.
coming up, and the fact that we transitioned from track, I mean, from basketball to track. Well, in my case, it was much of a transition because I sucked at hoop. You know what I'm saying? So, uh, how was that transition? What got you involved in the track part?
I just well, I love basketball and running. It's funny you say you suck. I guess we both sucked at basketball because we both ended up being gold medalists in running. But man, I was passionate about basketball, but I had a gift from God for running.
I
That's
agree.
basically
I
that's
agree.
basically what it was, Kev. I enjoyed basketball, but some of the things that I was doing on the track were just very natural, very what some people would say. It just came natural. Basketball a little more of a skill. You constantly have to work on your skill set,
Mhm.
and yeah, with track and running in the summertime, I didn't have much time to work on my skill set. Transition to the next year. So, but basketball, I mean, but track and field, it was I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed doing it as a kid, just running around.
It's so
And
natural, right?
yeah, it's just natural. Like we were in Detroit, we were running around the block, and I would finish fourth and fifth. I was never the best.
Hmm.
So, but I just enjoyed it, man. Just a natural.
How did you end up in the valley? Because I know, were you living in the valley, or were you at your grandma's house? Because
Yeah.
I know you in England from Inglewood.
Yes, yes. Most everybody knows from Inglewood to being at my grandma's nanny's house because everybody came to nanny's house.
Everybody came there.
Everybody came to Nanny's house. So I was supposed to come I mean, when I moved to California, me and my dad had an arrangement during high school. And once I got to high school, I would come live in Los Angeles.
Oh,
Excuse
okay.
me.
So that's what the arrangement was. So you just left
Yeah,
Detroit, came to LA. Well, that's a
yeah,
hell of a transition, man,
yeah,
especially at the
yeah.
time you came to LA, going to LA schools. You know,
Right,
people
right.
be thinking
LA,
just because you're out there at Woodland Hills and tap out that way that the craziness isn't around. LA is LA at certain points in time.
LA is LA. At that time, it was on fire everywhere you went. So
Yes.
I'm supposed to go to Inglewood High School, but my dad had married uh, that previous year and that summer actually. So I ended up going to Taft High School, which was in the valley about 45 minutes outside Inglewood.
Hmm. How was that bus ride there in the morning?
Well, for me, because he moved to Canoga Park.
Oh, are you a coach? Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he moved.
Okay.
Yeah, he moved out
Okay.
there. They moved out there. So for me, it was just I would just catch the regular bus, um, the regular metro.
Hmm.
It's about 20 minutes.
Who was
And
your coach at Taft High School? Your track coach?
my football coach was excuse me,
Everybody's football coach was a track.
my
Same
track
thing
coach.
with
Yeah,
me.
my track coach was my football coach, Tom Stevenson.
Uh-huh.
And but he was great, man. He was a great guy, football coach. He didn't know much about track, but he loved athletics, and he I started under him.
When you I mean, I was just thinking, man, you won a couple state titles there at
Yeah.
Tech, right?
Yes, yes. So
What events did you win the state beat?
I started off as a sprinter,
Oh,
100.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's my bug out with you because I know you. I mean, you quarter mile man, the Olympic champ, and I remember you as a sprinter. So what was that?
Yeah,
How was that transition going from being a sprinter into a quarter miler?
man, it was rough because I was a sprinter, right? And I won the state meet in the 100 meters my sophomore year, and I
Man,
left high
that's
school. Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. As a
State meet
junior,
champ.
I ran 20.50 and 10:30. So when I went to USC, I had some injuries, and they switched me to the
I
400.
know. Who recruited you at SC?
Guy by the name of Ernie Bullard, Coach Ernie Bullard.
Coach
He was my
Ernie. Yo, he's
yeah,
official.
yeah.
I remember
And then
Coach.
Coach Jim Bush came over. He
Mhm.
was a volunteer coach. Then he took over
That's what I'm
as a
saying.
head.
Well, he was kind of like retired, because he was
Yeah, he
doing
was
this LA
retired.
thing. He was with the Dodgers. He would pop up at
UCLA.
UCLA every now and then. He's emeritus on our campus. So, when Bushy showed up, he was the man.
So Coach Bush showed up. He was the man, and he always thought I would be a good 400-meter runner. And when he took over as a head coach, and he had mentioned he had plans on me running the 400, I was like, "Nah, coach, I'm not running the 400." And that's when I went and tried football. And then
Uh,
I came back
the
the next
transition.
year.
So that
And
was my question for you, Hugh Man, was the fact that now you as a coach, and you were one of those athletes that suffered, had injuries. I mean, you were injured your senior year at SC, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
my
Or
freshman,
your earlier
or
your junior, your first 2 years?
yep, all first three.
Oh man.
All three of my first year. So I got together my senior year, and I
Okay.
was free, and that's when I had some success at NCAA level and Olympic level.
Exactly. That's crazy. You go for 3 years of being injured and working with injuries and trying to manage them, and then your senior year, everything just kind of falls into place.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing, bro. That is amazing. So, m- uh, uh, so psychologically, as in those first 3 years at SC, you just going through it mentally, trying to figure out. You're on campus, staying in school. Just trying to figure it all out with the injuries, all the nagging stuff that's going on, and then how was your focus? Because we talk a lot about mental health with athletes these days, and you
yes,
as a coach at SC, you got all these younger athletes there, and how are you able to help them manage their mental health on campus
yeah.
with their own personal expectations? Because you got a story, I mean, I'm sure you break this down to them, telling them like, yo, I was injured this year, that year. What is
Mm-hmm.
your conversation with them when that happened? Or what has
Absolutely. I think there's a correlation there. I know there's a correlation there between my experience with injuries and frustrations and things of that nature as a young athlete in college. And, Kevin, when we were in school, there wasn't much talk about mental health.
oh,
All
not
right.
at
And
all.
right now, it's all about mental health and being able to just have support for these young athletes. You have sports psychologists and things like that where these
Mhm,
athletes reach out to, and it doesn't have to be at the direction of the coach. They can go build their own relationship, and that's what I see now. Is that today's student athlete there's so much support.
mhm.
You have the opportunity to sit with someone outside your coach, outside your family, and just talk life. We just had to compartmentalize back then.
All
You
day, all
it's
day.
compartmentalized back then, and I was used to it because my upbringing in Detroit and some of the things that were going on in Detroit, and so I was able to come out here and compartmentalize those really frustrating moments. As a kid, it hurt. It was very frustrating, but I never was depressed. I don't think I was depressed. You know, I didn't know
You
what
know what I mean? And the
what
fact that
depression
you knew
was.
you were depressed, I'm sure, but
Right. I
got
was
it
depressed.
together.
I had no
You
idea.
just
Uh,
you just sucked it
so,
up. How did you?
but I was, the one thing is, with the injuries during that time, I was in good hands with the university, the coaches, the medical staff, because I never felt like a blue chip athlete or star athlete that wasn't working out, and they were ready for me to graduate, so they could give my scholarship to
Get you out
someone
of
else.
there. Right, right.
Yeah. I never felt like that, you know. But one of the things that I leaned on, I had good family, and you know my family, Kev.
Oh
You
my
know my father,
goodness.
grandmother, and you kind of just know how the dynamics of our household. So I had in those particular moments when I felt alone, I
Hmm.
had family, and for me that was a great way to cope with a lot of frustration and things like that as a
Hmm.
young athlete. And I was always able to leave USC and go to Inglewood, which was 20 minutes away from USC,
Right.
and dinner with my family or go talk with my father,
Hmm.
uh, go lay on my grandmother's couch, you know. So, you know, that was the way I was able
I
to
think I
manage.
may have laid on your grandmother's couch
Oh, you laid on plenty of times.
a few
You
times.
already know. We used to go over there and eat and just hang out and have great
Oh man,
conversation.
I used to love
That's,
going over there, man.
yeah,
I remember times I would hope that I mean, I know I always had a green light to go there and knock on the door, but I would
yeah.
always hope make sure your car was parked out front, you know. So okay, so the pop, now we about to go in there and chill. And your pop, man, he was a salt of the earth, man. I love Big Roof. Uh,
Thank you, man. Thank you.
how did you get in? What was your how going to school? What was your transition to coaching? How did who got you started in the coaching thing?
You know what, Kev? You know how I am, Kev. You know, I didn't know I was going to be a coach, but I think I always just gravitated to people. Not that people gravitated to me. I always gravitated to people who were in need. You know, whether it was friendship, whether it was athletics, I always tried to help people. My grandmother said I always would give the shirt off my back. And I had no idea that would translate into coaching or coaching would be a possibility. And Coach Jim Bush, I remember him at the NCAA championship. I was running the 400. I forget which round it was, and me and Travis was we were in the race together. Travis likes to start his kick late, and coach was trying to get him to start his kick earlier so he could
You know?
be positioned for the race. And I remember in one particular race, I was Coach K basically, what are you doing in the race? And I said, oh, I was telling Travis, okay, Travis, let's start kicking. As I was moving past him, I said, okay, Travis, come with me. So in that moment where I'm going for the victory, Coach saw me coach somebody else up, and it was
Yeah.
a really significant moment. And he told me that one day he thought I would be a really good coach, and here I am. So you
Yo,
know,
man, that's right. Track director at SC, man. That's wild. It's so crazy because I tell people all the time, coming out of LA, going to SC was always with a local athlete, and from my perspective, I always wanted to go to SC,
yeah,
always,
yeah,
and it's always been one of my stories. But ending up at UCLA was kind of, I pretty much had had a great time at UCLA, great
mhm.
time. How do you find the as a athlete or former athlete coach and dealing with your peers in the sport, that transitional piece between the coaching from individuals that go back and forth between within the city of Los Angeles, whether it be the private school UCLA or excuse me, the private school USC or the
You're
public
right.
school UCLA. Is
Well,
that like a conversation, a jokingly conversation that folks have there in Cali? Southern
yes,
Cali?
it's always a jokingly conversation between the two schools. UCLA and UCLA, they're both great institutions, right?
Yeah,
You know, you earned your degree from UCLA. I earned my degree from USC, and you know, two top notch academic schools. I think for me, I think the underlying current, what a lot of people don't realize is a lot of us know each other, you know, in
that's it.
high
That's
school,
it.
right? So there's always relationships there.
Mhm.
Me and you, we built our relationship. I'm watching you in college while I'm over at USC. I'm watching you over at UCLA. Coming out of high school, UCLA was my number one choice.
And
That
that's
was my number one choice. Yeah, that was my number one choice. And that didn't work out, and USC ended up being my best choice. and
Same thing for me. Exactly. You
yeah,
can say that. You can
it
say
just
it
worked
better
out
than that.
better. Yeah, it worked out for me. Ended up being the best choice,
I
and
learned
just
so much from the guys from SC coming in as a walk on at UCLA. I really vibed. I remember just because when you come to these universities when you're young like that, you're actually watching everything your freshman year. So I remember we would
Mhm.
have dual meets with the guys from SC, and it was Pancho Morales, aka Brother Muhammad, um, and I watched him. I watched all the.
George Porter.
I watched GP was there. When GP hadn't gotten there yet, but Morales was there. Uh, then SC's women's team was off the chain. Luanda
Mhm.
Cabell and Gervais.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yep, Gervais.
who else was there? I gotta go with my.
Leslie Maxey there. Was she
Oh
there?
my goodness, Maxie, yo, they were deep, but
Hmm.
that was the beauty of. I remember we have that rivalry that we had in the city was the simple fact that you knew once the Trojans came on campus or vice versa, it was gonna be a fight right out the gate because I think that 4x1 is that first event.
Yeah,
And
it's the
that
first event.
that
You know,
always sets the tone of the
yeah,
event,
that's the
man.
first event.
We used to get
So,
racked up by SC when my earlier years. We would get pounced, man. Uh,
and then we would move on. We would move to the distant races, and then like
yeah,
now, I'm getting torched in the distant races. So, I think with those two programs, they always have signature events, and the dual meet is always huge. And for us, USC, we built on power and speed, and as of lately, I mean, always. And UCLA, they've always had a great sprint and distance program, with Coach
yeah,
Larkin. So
right.
the distance program is still alive there, and
Those have some good throwers too.
yeah, oh, for
Yeah,
sure,
you know,
absolutely, absolutely.
it's interesting enough.
Art
I think
Venegas,
on
Coach
par,
Venegas.
yeah, coach, yeah, for
Yep.
sure. NIL.
Yes.
NIL. All right. How as a head coach, well, a track director, you got your assistant stuff. How just your whole coaching staff? How are you guys affected by the NIL? Because we came in, it was you had your athletic scholarship, and you get books paid for you in there. But now the youngsters are doing their own politicking when it comes to trying to get, I guess, put money in their accounts or finding
Yes.
the money to put in their accounts. As
Yes.
being on the campus, what is your direction or your how do you look at that? Just the
You
transition.
I think, Kevin, you and I, we came too early. We were ahead of our time. But I sure wish we could have came through this time right here with NIL. With the opportunities that the student athletes have now, and I agree with it. It changed the whole landscape of college athletics. But I
Yeah,
agree with these young athletes. They need to be paid. The times of being a starving student athlete. That's what this whole thing was about. Was out there being in a championship game, but everyone doesn't know that the night before you were starving, or the week
starting.
before you were starving, waiting on a stipend check.
Sneaking in the training table with the football team.
Yeah, sneaking in, hopping the fence, having your buddy on the football team in the training room. Hey man, can you bring you back some food, right? Some of the extra food.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a great time, but it's also be wary because I don't think it's teaching our young athletes much about um the real value of a dollar,
Yeah.
right? Because it's coming too easy.
I mean, I
And
find I find it so difficult, Q man, the simple fact that um you have youngsters who are putting a price tag more or less on their scholastics, being a student athlete. And
right,
first of all, I find that very difficult to even consider coming out of transition to high school. And you could be good in high school, but once you get on these college campuses, you're there with top athletes from all over the country. And how do I mean, I'm just thinking of as a young athlete, how do you navigate being a student athlete and now you're trying to figure out your bag, or where you're
right,
going to get this cash from, or who's going to, and then what is your mental attitude when you don't do as good in college as you were in
right,
high school, and now you have to do this act of trying to figure this out, and like I said, that's a lot on a young athlete's mind.
Yeah, that adds to the stress because number one, you're coming out of high school, you want the bag. And if you don't get the bag, okay, now you're trying to create a band, now you're trying to create a brand when
Yeah,
you should really be focusing 1,000% on your product, who you are as a student athlete, and then put that into performance. And if you put that into performance, then you
translates. Yeah.
your brand, right, your brand will grow, and then there will be an opportunity for NIL opportunity from a collective or things like that.
Do you find a lot of individuals who are so-called connected with the NIL kind of like targeting or going after athletes, putting stuff in their head, saying this is what I can do for you, or this or the other, trying to point them in directions to try to make money when in fact that's not even the case?
Well, you know, you have, yep, I think early on
Hmm.
with NIL, you had, because it's so brand new, you know, these young athletes had a lot of pressure and there were a lot of conversations and people talking to them, and they weren't delivering. They were just kind of trying to use the athlete for representation later on down the line, or they was promising the athletes things that they couldn't deliver.
Hmm.
When you have an NIL, is a really a true NIL is a agreement on paper uh, for your services and what you will provide to a company or a collective.
Hmm.
Um, and based on that, your service will be whatever you guys agree on,
Right.
promotional stuff, social media stuff, things of that nature. And in return, you will receive some kind of compensation or some kind of other things that are of value.
In
You know,
kind things, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
But at first that wasn't the case, and some of these young athletes were being taken advantage of. But then you have athletes who have legit NIL deals and are doing very well.
but
But
does that affect, to your knowledge, does that affect their performance on the track? I mean, because
sometimes it does because it's pressure.
the pressure, exactly.
Pressure to perform. I mean, like, you now you have a 17, 18-year-old who's making six figures. And in other sports, you have 17, 18-year-olds who are making millions of dollars.
Dude,
So there's
I'll be careful. I was so funny being in LA. I remember growing just I remember just the transition. You go from, starting getting your accomplishments. And I remember after finishing school, getting an apartment, getting my first vehicle, driving around. I had a Honda Accord,
Yep.
and I was just freaking leery. I'm from Watts, man. Just
Yeah.
driving my whip around LA, just knowing the makeup of Los Angeles, driving through the city. I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine being an NIL kid driving uh, these cars that they're getting in the city of Los Angeles.
Well,
Uh,
it's
I mean, you can't even park it first and foremost. Why would I mean,
you
since Shador, he seems to be the topic of conversation, and
yeah.
since we just have this recent draft, and I'm watching the young man on television, and I'm like, this guy's driving around in Rolls Royces and in those sorts of things. I'm going, I couldn't imagine. I mean, I would just see myself as a damn target
Yeah.
in
Well,
LA.
like you said, and I think that's a great example because um, in our era, you once you graduate, you bought your first car, or you may get your first car at some point in
Some
college,
point
right?
yeah,
But
in school,
it's never an exotic car. It never was an exotic car. It never was a Phantom. It never was a Rolls Royce.
a
It never was
Rolls Royce. Are they talking Lambo and shit? I
yeah,
mean,
Lambos and things like that. I mean,
G classes,
those
right?
yeah, those type of assets were just so far removed from
From
college
college sports. It's
and
crazy.
college. Yeah, right, right. Even if you could afford it, but they were just so far removed from the athletes, students. It was so far. The only time you saw a Phantom on USC campus or UCLA campus, and I'm just gonna throw a name on. This is not true, but like
It could
just
be
say
one of the movie directors or
Eddie
something.
Murphy was on campus. Just say Eddie Murphy was on campus.
Yeah, exactly,
Something like that.
exactly.
Eddie
Something going
Murphy.
on in the bar, something going on at the
Yeah,
shrine. They driving.
right,
They got the
right.
hoop out. I mean, shit. The last time I saw Rolls Royce in the SC areas was Reverend Ike. Reverend Ike had well, he had his Rolls Royce
Yes.
parked out in front of the Shrine Auditorium. That's
Right.
that's the only Rolls Royce I've ever seen. This is back in the 70s.
No,
And I
man,
was a kid.
it's
So
like I literally walk on campus and I see Porsches.
think about
I
it.
see,
Think about it. Like we
uh,
always had like the guys on the football team, and they had cars, they had whips, but they didn't have
yep,
exotic cars. They may have had some may have like a used Porsche, you know.
yep. They're
Uh,
not used anymore. They have NIL agreements with Porsche dealerships, Mercedes-Benz dealerships, and like Caleb Williams, I don't know in particular, but I know he had some NIL opportunities, and the rumor was he had a Porsche dealership opportunity. He had Mercedes-Benz NIL opportunity, and I would see these cars, and I saw Caleb a couple times in them. But one thing about him and that particular young man, it's a different era, and to be able to live in that kind of lifestyle when you're in college. But he was just such a down to earth kid, man.
mhm.
Like he was just a great
And
kid.
you know how
So
it is, Q man. My thing is, I'm definitely a supporter of the athletes. I mean, we've transitioned to a point where we've seen athletes, like you said, starving in
yeah.
their national championships, with literally starving to death in on campus. Can't have a cell phone, this, that, and the other. Just the whole dynamic of it. Um,
But you know what, Kev, you know what? Just like you got Caleb, who's that great kid, you have some kids, they're not even worth, they're not even worth $9. Right.
and
Right.
they talking, yeah, they
And
moving like they are.
think they think they think they're God's gift to athletics, and
Mhm.
they're not even worth $9. And that's the kid where NIL is really doing college sports,
Disservice, yeah.
college student athletes a disservice. So but like I said, I've seen it with other young men and other young women like Juju. She's a
I mean,
prime
that really
example.
makes the coaching staff harder to me because they really have to go in there and explain this to not just the youngsters, to their parents, their whole
Mhm.
their whole supporting staff, and really let them know you should be here for an education. You
Yeah.
know, you
Yeah,
really
but
should.
the era is so different now. It's because of the NIL and because it's just in your face. And it's a great, don't get me wrong now. It's a great era for athletics.
Mhm.
Ed O'Bannon kicked this whole thing
Come
off
on,
in
yeah,
UCLA.
for sure.
It's a great time for sports and athletics. We have another great young lady on our campus, basketball, Juju
She
Watkins.
just blew her knee out. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I saw, yeah.
just blew me out. I don't know her, but during the season, she's playing basketball, but she's also on, I think, State Farm's commercial. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, wow, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you look at someone who's generational. She's transcending women's sports, and I went to a basketball playoff game last year,
Mhm.
and Kevin, the line was outside of the arena down Figueroa, right? That's how much Juju and those women on their team, because she's the face, but they had a lot of other players there that were working their butts off really hard. But
Mhm.
Juju being the face and what she's done for women's basketball at USC, I had never seen before. As
Probably
much as
since Cheryl was there, and it's funny.
yeah,
If can you, I
yeah,
couldn't imagine if Cheryl Miller was 2025 Cheryl, 1980, 81 Cheryl Miller at SC. She would have shut down the city of LA, period.
well,
Period.
she's
Period. 'Cause she was phenomenal.
one of the generational athletes. You've never seen another Cheryl Miller, right?
Never.
I haven't seen one. I've seen a lot
That
of
whole
great
Miller
basketball
family, man. I know a bunch of them. I
players.
know, of course, went to school with Reggie, his brother,
Okay.
baseball, his brother Dennis. Uh,
Hmm.
played majors in the major league. And it's funny, a few times I even when I've been to LA, going out, I watched him train some younger athletes. Um, LA 28, Q man, LA 28. What is
I'm excited.
what's the atmosphere for LA 28? That's I got to position myself. Although I'm over here in Switzerland, I got to position myself to do some things in Los
Yeah.
Angeles.
I
So
think
how
that
how are you affected by that, or
I
what's
think
the
that
position for
I think
that?
that's the mentality, positioning yourself. That's the word you want to use. And for us, we already positioned, right? USC is right there. The Coliseum is right there. That's
Right
that's that's
there.
our home. That's our home. So
Uh-huh.
We're already positioned. The recruiting is phenomenal. Just having conversation with recruits and whether international recruits or they're cute or recruits here in the States.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
man, I
just
just
having
thought about another
conversation
question to ask you. Uh,
just have a conversation about the Olympics and a lot of these recruits these days, and you know this, Kevin. A lot of these recruits, man, they're going to be in their junior year or going right into their senior year or junior year, and that's kind of when you pop off
Yo,
in
this is
college.
crazy. I was just looking at Q Man. I
Yeah.
made my first Olympic team. I was 22. Well, I was 21, changed
Mm-hmm.
and became 22. You were in Barcelona. You were 22 as well.
21. 21 just turned 22.
Just turned 22. Exact same thing that my so I could have and I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in 88. I was
Yeah.
just happy to make the team with
Yes.
Edwin and Flojo and Carl
Yep.
and those guys. And that was the beauty of it, especially watching the 84 games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the the the, the youngsters, or just the fact that the track and field itself and the sport itself is going moving on. When you were in Barcelona, all right, and of course the hype that resolved around your 400-meter race, what was your mindset?
Uh, well, you were my roommate, so and you saw me on a day to day, and
Yeah,
you saw my mindset was I was bored. I was in my room. I had my goals on the wall. You had your goals on the wall, and I was just totally focused and locked in, just locked in, man, just locked in. And I went and got mine, and at that point, me and you were really, really close, man. And it was a pleasure training with you, man.
I
My
enjoyed
friendship.
it, man. That was like I said, that was a critical
Yeah,
year
you
for
talk
my
about
transition.
you talking about the USC, UCLA, but we were roommates and we trained
And
together.
we hung out, like I said, I hung out at your grandmama house.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think so. The 400 at Barcelona.
We set it off though. That was crazy. It was
I
so
mean,
crazy. I never forget. I
I ain't
never
gonna
forget
forget.
you, man.
I ain't gonna forget what you said though. I remember what you said. You said, "Oh, when I got my gold medal, I remember you came back in the room and we were talking. You was like, okay, let me see what I can do to top this. I got, I got to go break the world record. You got the gold and the world
But wait,
record
you like this though. You in the
in
bed like
the
this,
bed. In the
on
bed,
the
you
bed
remember,
with
right?
your medal on, like looking at me like, yeah, you got to get yours, Cam.
Like it was
Oh, that was
yesterday.
lovely, man. That was
No, like
crazy.
it was yesterday, man. And I think that's the beauty is that we were there and we were
We did
so focused.
exactly what we planned on doing. Well,
Hey, man.
winning the medals was exactly what we planned on doing. It was so crazy, the energy that we had. I remember we went from just on in the village one day to rock stars the next,
Next
and
day, overnight.
overnight. And it was so. We remember we were on those bicycles. They had the bicycles. We were we were going to McDonald's because they
Yeah.
they had the McDonald's inside the
Yeah,
village.
what McDonald's.
And they was like bugging, where you guys get the food from? You're not supposed to be, man. We got it like that.
Absolutely,
The
man.
crazy thing, Cuban, I never did see Barcelona as a city when I was
Yeah,
there at
I told
all. It was
I
20 years
well,
later I saw the city.
that's because you were locked in.
Locked in.
We were locked in. Somebody asked me the other day, "What was Barcelona like?" I said, "I have no idea."
I had no idea.
I said, It's such a blur, the city and all those different things, because we was just so locked into the village, training,
John had
maintain."
his birthday. Shout out to
Yeah.
John Smith.
Yep. JS was there, and we were all just locked in under JS's tutelage. And I don't remember. I can't remember one thing outside of me and your relationship and us
Uh,
working, hanging out every day.
do
I
you
can't
remember? Do you remember
think
when I
about
went to
the
the
city of
A6
Barcelona.
kiosk?
I went was it on the boat?
Oh no, we were in the village. They had A6 had a kiosk in the village where you went with me. I had to get my running shoes from there.
Uh-huh.
And we walked down there and they didn't have they couldn't find my running spikes. So I went in there, I was upset. I turned around and was walking back out. We was going back to our suite, and then
Yeah.
the Japanese dude come running out. Ah, Mr. Young, Mr. Young. And he grabbed me when we went back in. And anyway, that was
you sign
I
autographs
signed
and
those little
things.
cards and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
was I was pissed off because when I went in there, with nobody there to help me out, and I was like, you would think they would have, they would have
Yeah.
some sort of. Anyway, I realized that
I
the
told you, and
marketing
Kevin, like I said, you were in the wrong era. If you
definitely the
was in
wrong
this
era.
era, oh my,
Definitely the wrong era. Um, the talent of the youngsters coming out of LA.
yeah.
How is it? How is your recruiting? I mean,
Well, to be honest, I don't really recruit LA solely.
mm,
I want to lock down the LA talent. I want to lock down home base. But when you look at my team is more global.
international, man. But SC's
Yeah.
always been that way,
Oh,
though.
yeah. So
Yeah,
so I'm
SC's always been
I'm
that way.
not
I guess
gonna
between
reinvent
those two
the wheel.
campuses, we've always had international. Well, I would just say
Yeah.
colleges in the States, they typically have, but particularly, we get
Yeah.
our share of the athletes there.
Yeah, I think SC and UCLA, we're always going to have more of a global international
Yeah.
in terms of our
Draw,
roster.
yeah, that lure to the
Yeah,
campus.
yeah. And so my roster, I have South Africa on my roster. I have Nigeria. I have Great Britain. I have Poland.
I'm working with Matete in Zambia, man, and Sam actually I think just got elected. He's their he's their coach. He might be maybe the national coach now.
And then Matete?
Matete, yeah. I mean, I talk with Sam a lot all the time, and so now we got. I was taught to say this to myself. All the brothers that I know from the continent, man, we never really over the decades we never did this exchange.
Right.
And it's time for us to really get down and do that because no Sam's in Zambia. I was like, yo, Sam, whatever you need, I'm gonna do my best here to help you. And it's crazy because I'm here in Switzerland, but I'm on WhatsApp doing things, hoping to arrange stuff with him. Hopefully to visit Zambia, man, in the near future to do some stuff with him. But we got all these connections. We got all this. We get this. We have this bloodline, I guess you could say, with our transition between great Olympic members from the past, Coach Emerson, Coach Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can go down a
Mm-hmm.
whole list of
Yeah.
former coaches and fellow Olympians that we're close to. We're part of that legacy. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad we've been able to just kind of reconnect. When I was in LA, when we had celebrated this, shout out to Joe Ortega too, man, because he did the article on the two of us for
That
the
was a
LA
nice.
Times,
Yeah, that was a
and
nice
that kind of
shot, John.
connected us over, closed the gap because I went on doing my thing. You was
Yeah,
locally on campus, and just having the conversation with him and him talking with you, and you guys surprised me at the house. That was like the
yeah,
highlight of my summer, man.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was,
yeah. I
you,
mean, when I
DJ,
walked
JG.
when you came to town, and I walked in that house, and I saw Johnny Gray, and I saw Derek Knight, and I saw Jeff, and then I
Jeff,
saw
got a shout out to Jeff,
uh, what's my
Gene
guy,
Driver, Coach Dr.
Eugene, but
Carlos,
John Carlos.
Dr.
You
Carlos,
know,
yeah.
John Carlos in there, man. That was a great
Yo,
track and
man,
field moment.
life is this
With
so
different.
crazy. John's wife is my cousin. John's
Whoa.
John's wife is my cousin, man. My cousin Charlene. It's so crazy when I found that out years ago. I was like, damn, I didn't, even though it was by marriage, I'm
Right,
always,
right.
I'm like, John's my cuz,
Yeah, yeah.
he'll tell you to your face. So we have that legacy and that tie. How was it and it was it 2018, 2019 when you won men's assistant coach of the year? How was that, man?
I,
It just
you
it
know,
just came to
Kevin.
me because I was just thinking.